Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
Wait.
Everybody calm down!
Hi guys, it's your girl k.l.graywill, aka Kelso, the creator of the webcomic 85 Unseen, and today I'm going to deviate a little from storytelling and world building stuff to talk about something just as important, which is promotion. While this is going to be kind of Webtoons focused, I will be talking more broadly about building a social media following from scratch and how grow parties and sub-for-sub culture can actually hurt your visibility. I want to clarify a couple things before I get into that though, and the first is, number one, I had zero social media presence before I started my webcomic. Like, I had a personal Facebook page and an Instagram where I had posted 10 pictures. So, at the time of making this video, I have over 10k followers across platforms and 600 subs on Webtoons, which is, I think, a modest but decent following for someone who started doing this 2 months ago. I'm just telling you my numbers so that you hopefully take me seriously and you have a frame of reference for anything else that I talk about in this video. But I've seen plenty of creators get 10 times as many subscribers as me in half the time, and I would absolutely go mad if I constantly compared myself to them. So don't be discouraged by how quickly other people grow, because we're all going at our own paces. I'm just here to give insights as someone who didn't have a following on social media and felt overwhelmed by the prospect of promoting. And hopefully what I've learned will help you promote yourself and eventually get promoted by Webtoon too. The second is, I did not reboot my comic. Now, there's not anything wrong with that. It's actually very smart. Basically, if you don't know, rebooting is when you have a reasonable following on your comic and you want to completely revamp it by starting over with a new one. And the huge influx of subscribers that you get that follow you from your old one sort of trick the Webtoon algorithm, and the high engagement over a very short period will propel you into one of the algorithm-based front page categories like Rising Stars or Hot Series, which is where mine was. The reason I bring this up is because I see a lot of how I got popular on Webtoons videos, and half the time it's someone talking about how they rebooted their comic, and I'm like, okay, I mean, cool, but my comic is less than 2 months old and I don't have a reason to reboot it, so I wanted to give some insights for people that are also in that position. Okay, so that said, about 2 weeks after launch, my comic was on the front page in Hot Series, and it was 18 in the sci-fi top 30. It still kind of hovers around that range. So how did I get promoted by Webtoon? Well, firstly, I did not even know my comic was in the sci-fi charts until another creator messaged me about it, and people left comments on the episodes saying they came from the sci-fi chart. I didn't even know where to find the Canvas top 30 charts. I low-key didn't even know that they were a thing. So I'm not sure how much visibility that really brings, but I am definitely grateful for it. Sci-fi is also a smaller genre on Webtoons, so it's not impossible to be ranked even if you're new. Being under Hot Series, however, I am very grateful for, because that is actually excellent visibility. Both the charts and the front page categories are mostly algorithm-based categories, save for a few which are, to my knowledge, handpicked by staff. So we have to do our best to kind of play the algorithm game, and to do that we have to first understand engagement. Engagement is, from my experience and consensus among creators, some ratio of your views, likes, comments, and subs over a certain period of time / amount of episodes. This is why rebooting your comic is a great way to break into the front page categories, because having hundreds and hundreds of people sub and like and comment when you've only posted one episode of your comic shows really good engagement. This is also why sub-for-sub culture can hurt you, but I will get into that in a bit. So, Webtoons does not have great discoverability. And by that I mean, the odds of people finding your comic organically through the app just by browsing the genres under Canvas is very, very low. Your comic only gets bumped to the top of the recents page very briefly after you update, and most Webtoons users aren't even scrolling through there anyway. They're probably clicking on comics they see in banners, or sometimes the front page of the Canvas categories, which is why everyone wants to be there. If our organic reach within Webtoons is not that great, that means we have to find people from other platforms to engage with our content. And that's really difficult, because even if you already have a big following somewhere else, it doesn't mean that all of them are going to convert into Webtoon subscribers. If you also host on another comics platform like Tapas, that will be even harder because there are way less readers there. Self-promotion is a huge hustle, and if you're like me and you didn't have a social media following starting out, it can feel really intimidating to build that from the ground up. So I'm going to cover all of the social media outlets that I started using to build a following. So mainly Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, Pinterest. And then I will get into how all of that fits into sub for subculture and why that's probably hurting you more than it's helping you. First, my timeline. I did not start seriously considering creating 85 Unseen as a webcomic until autumn of last year, and I started drafting story beats, scripts, and panels around November 2020. Then I released it mid-March 2021. During the time beforehand, I was working on being active on social media. The first place I went was Facebook. I joined a bunch of Webtoon creator groups, which is a great resource for meeting other creators, and not a good place to get readers. There is a problem there, which is that there are just simply too many of them, and they all consist of the same people. So there are like less than 10 Webtoon creator Facebook groups, and all of them have a few thousand members, and it's mostly all the same people in each of the groups. So what ends up happening is people cross-post every time they make a post to every single group, and it just becomes so saturated with promotional stuff that you don't really pay attention to the stuff that comes through your feed. Those groups are best for starting a discussion and sharing some kind of behind the scenes work. I will say that I made a trailer for my comic, which you can view on my channel, by the way, but I posted it in those groups when I launched 85 Unseen, and it received a lot of attention because it takes a lot of effort to make a trailer, and it was nice to have some initial support from other creators because of that. I started posting in those groups though in December 2020, so there were months that I was there just contributing to discussions, offering help, sometimes sharing my art before I ever started promoting my comic. And I think that creators have a high tolerance for self-promo because they understand where it comes from. But honestly, I'm still very annoyed when people comment, or especially if they DM me with some copy-paste message to check out their webtoon when it wasn't even relevant to anything that I said. Or like, I wasn't even promoting my webtoon. It's just bad networking. Stop doing it. I kind of give a pass if they seem young. But as a general rule of thumb, stop. You need to be genuinely interested in other people's work if you want them to respond to yours. People are very good at telling when people are being authentic or if they're throwing a like at you so they can spam you with their comic. If you want to really connect with other creators, I highly recommend Discord. I'm in a few Canvas creator Discords, and some of them are huge, and it was very overwhelming, but I'm more active in a couple smaller ones, and that's about all I can handle. And it's nice to have other creators who, you know, fully appreciate what you do because they also make comics, and we try to comment on each other's episodes and hype each other up, so... It's Kelso from the future. Okay, I feel like I could potentially be making people feel bad here if they've ever sent unsolicited messages about their comics, and I do want to be clear that when this stuff comes from my mutuals, it doesn't bother me as much, and even if someone does hijack my post to promote their own comic, at least it's better if it's clear they did actually read mine and had something nice to say about it. If someone has asked, hey, I'm looking for new romance comics to read, or drop your link so I can check out your comics, then of course you should share. But just going around and commenting your link on every post and sending it to other creators is not going to get you very far. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this usually doesn't rub people the right way, and it's probably not going to help you find readers. I get it, maybe this feels like the only way to promote, but it's not, and that's why I made this video. After Facebook, I eventually set up an Instagram for 85 Unseen, specifically because I didn't want to bombard my main account with a bunch of comic stuff. I still don't have a lot of followers on there, and I'm honestly not too fussed about it. It's very hard to be discovered on Instagram. Right now, the only good aspect of Instagram are Reels, which are basically repurposed TikToks, and I will talk about what makes a good TikTok next, but anyway, Reels are getting a lot of priority in Instagram feeds, and Discover, with good hashtags, mine usually get around 1,000 views or so, but that doesn't usually translate into followers. And even if someone does follow me after seeing my Reel, it's even less likely that they're gonna go subscribe to my comic. I think other than that, Instagram is just a good place to connect with other creators. And I think that's reflected in what are my best performing posts on Instagram. The first is a compilation of Black Webtoon creators that I made for Black History Month, and another one where I showed a bunch of cameos that I had in an episode featuring other creators' characters. So if you go out of your way to make content for Instagram that celebrates other creators and other comics, there is an opportunity to make connections there, to use it for community. But besides that, I don't really rely on Instagram as a way to promote my comic or to get followers. So you'll have to just exert so much effort to build a substantial following there if you don't have one, and I am honestly not convinced that it's worth it. TikTok, while very saturated, does still have pretty good discoverability, and I believe this is what's responsible for boosting my Webtoon engagement so quickly that it got promoted under Hot Series. So I started my TikTok in February of this year, which is when I planned to release the comic, and then I got so sucked into it that I ended up delaying release until March. So what happened with TikTok? Well, I very quickly started to get videos on my For You page about creator tips, and they all said to post 3 times a day, and I was like, what? I can't do this. I can't post like 1,000,000 times a day on every social media platform. But you know what? I tried it anyway, and I was creating 3 art videos a day just for TikTok to be seen by like no one, just to keep up with the algorithm, supposedly. And I can't say whether or not this was necessary earlier on when I had no followers. It might have been. But of course, TikTok wants us to think that we need to post all the time because they want us to create content that keeps people on their app, creators and consumers alike. But once I had a few thousand followers, I found it was actually much better, not just for me, but for my content, to post quality content every few days rather than 3 bad videos a day. And people preach the whole like, it's all about quantity over quality thing a lot. But it is 100%, at least once you have somewhat of a following built up on TikTok, not necessary. I post like every 3 or 4 days now, and it's a really good post that I know my followers will respond to, and it's fine. But what you post is so important, and I see a lot of Webtoon creators on TikTok with amazing comics, and they just don't see any growth because their videos are just still image slideshows of their comic or like a clip studio time lapse. And I'm here to tell you, people do not care. TikTok values watch time and engagement. So unless you post something that's really controversial that prompts loads of comments, your content better be interesting enough that people watch the whole thing, or most of it. I always see artists on TikTok complain that they are shadow banned, so I don't know who needs to hear this, but you are not shadow banned. TikTok does not have it out for you. It's not suppressing your content, unless perhaps you're an activist, in which case I'm sure there are many legitimate cases of censorship, but I'm not going to get into that. For artists, the algorithm responds to how real people interact with your content, and there's a lot of competition for people's attention, especially in art, where the standard is very, very high. You're competing for views with 12-year-old prodigies with millions of followers who post masterpieces every time they upload. That's the standard that people expect to see. There's nothing wrong with posting a boring 20-second slideshow of your comic, but you shouldn't be surprised when that video doesn't grow. Look at it this way. I have over 10K on TikTok at this point, and I still sometimes post videos that get 200 to 300 views, which any old user with 100 followers could get. Am I shadow banned? No. I look at successful videos and over time build an understanding of what works. So let's workshop a video. I could just post this time lapse. Easy, no effort. But if I zoom into different parts of it before I reveal the final piece, that's better. People can tell the art is good and they want to see the finished piece, so they'll watch to the end. Even better, sync the transitions with some fitting, ideally trending audio. And even better, if you have something compelling to say about the piece, do a voiceover. I'm going to show a video at the end where I did this exact thing and it worked really, really well. The key to making good promotional content is for it to be entertainment before it's a promotion. Let me explain. About a month into relentlessly posting art on TikTok with very little success, I found my niche when I made a video about one of the fictional languages that I constructed for 85 Unseen. And that video now has somewhere close to 200,000 views, when before that, my more generic art videos were only getting a few hundred. It was sort of a walkthrough showing how I developed the language phonetics, created a writing system, and then turned it into a font that I could type in for the comic. And this is a perfect balance of entertainment and promotion because it's interesting and educational, and it's through the lens of my fictional language for my comic. So anyone who's intrigued by that will go check the link in my bio and maybe subscribe to the Webtoon. Not every follower will become a subscriber to my Webtoon, but they will help push the video out to others who might. This goes for all the content that I've made. Whenever I talk about magic systems or fantasy map making or conlangs, It's all educational content, subtly infused with promotion because it's about something that I made for the webcomic. You have to approach promotion on apps like this through the lens of, why do we spend so much time on social media? Is it because we like to be advertised to? No, it's because we want to endlessly, mindlessly scroll through random, interesting, and entertaining content. It does take extra effort to make good content for social media, and it takes time to figure out what works for you, but it is worth it. I think we're so used to seeing the low effort viral videos from people who already have a big following that we think, oh, I can just do this trend video and it will pop off. But if you're starting from zero, you have to put in effort in the beginning if you want it to be worthwhile. I also use Reddit a decent amount, and not the Webtoon or the Webtoon Canvas subreddits, which are notorious for people just rate bombing things that they see posted in them. I only post in those if I have something like really interesting or something that will like prompt a discussion. Like I posted my trailer there and definitely found readers from that. I put it in both of those subreddits, but more so I post in subreddits that are related to world building and fantasy fiction. Sometimes the post rules kind of require that I have to write up descriptions to go with my images, which requires some extra effort, but it's always worth it because those subreddits are filled with people who are genuinely interested in consuming and creating that kind of content. Pinterest is another thing that any comic creator can get into. So if you want to really cover all of your bases as far as social media promotion goes, Pinterest can actually help with your search engine optimization, or SEO. If you tag it appropriately, you can get images of your comic to come up in Google Images at the top, and the right keywords can get you decent exposure on Pinterest itself. I haven't done much on this end, but as you can see here, when you search my comic, it does come up, but so does Fluffy Berry Pokemon card, because it's number 85 in the Unseen Forces set. So, oh my god. Anyway, YouTube is a perhaps more labor-intensive option. There's also Tumblr and DeviantArt, which I do have followers on from when I posted my art there when I was younger, so I may post on those and let you guys know if any of my followers like rise up from the grave to follow my webcomic. Anyway, that is the overview of how I grew my social media from scratch, specifically for my webcomic. I had a couple popular TikToks circulating in the weeks following my release of the comic, and I want to say I had 5 episodes up, so like the 3 that I posted at release and then 2 more after that. And I noticed my subs were increasing a lot from the TikTok videos, which were getting tens of thousands of views, and I think I had gained like 100, and then it was still growing when I went to bed, and when I woke up the next day, it was under hot series. And that visibility, as you can imagine, snowballed and helped it grow even more. I know that it can all seem very daunting. Believe me, I get it. I had to start from square one too. But if I can do it, it is possible. I do think though that people get so wrapped up in subs and likes that they miss the point of real growth and readership, which brings me to the discussion of sub for sub culture. First, as a disclaimer, do not misconstrue this as me being against support for support. I will happily rate, leave some likes, even comments if I feel compelled on any creator's comic. I rarely agree to do those kinds of swaps just because I don't really have time, but those are all sort of detached, short-term forms of engagement that don't really hurt creators in the long term. And maybe you're thinking, but doesn't sub for sub help creators? Doesn't it get them closer to 1,000 subs and therefore closer to being able to monetize their comic? Well, yes, technically, if you have 44 subs and you ask a few creators to sub for sub and now you have 47, you are closer to 1,000 objectively. But here is the problem. The page view count that you need to be part of the ad sharing program on Webtoon is 40,000. And chances are, if you are relying on sub for sub to get you to 1,000, you are nowhere near the views needed because the views come from people actually reading your comic. If anything, having inactive subscribers is actually hurting you because you have an inflated subscriber count that doesn't reflect the actual engagement that your comic gets in views, likes, and comments because most of the sub for subs are just sitting there. This is entirely the wrong approach to be taking with readership, and people who think that doing a few sub for subs is going to boost visibility on Webtoons are misunderstanding how algorithms work. The Webtoons algorithm is not going to reward a slow-growing increase of subs in the single digits. Like I said earlier, it requires engagement on all levels over a short period of time. Unless I guess you really hustle and get like 100 creators to all sub for sub when you first launch, but probably spamming a bunch of them at once would just annoy them. And it's not just webcomic creators that fall into this trap either. I see this everywhere. When I joined TikTok, there was a lot of momentum for this thing called hashtag 10k artist, where artists were all following each other back until everyone had 10k so they could get into the creator fund and be paid for their content. And that sounds really nice, but it went horribly wrong for most people. Maybe you're thinking, oh, because people would follow and then unfollow, right? Well, yes, but worse were people who kept following but didn't engage with any of the other artists' content. Maybe they drop a like on the video, but TikTok, like Webtoons, doesn't define engagement as one thing. It includes likes, watch time, comments, views, so people ended up having a bunch of disengaged followers who were actually causing their views to plummet because they were ignoring any content that they did see. So even if you did make it to the creator fund, you had nowhere near enough views to earn anything from it. And I did meet a few cool creators from this who I still engage with on TikTok, but I noped out so early on because I knew I would rather have a following that actually responded to and was genuinely interested in my content. It's the same with Webtoons. The subs are pointless if no one is reading it. If you care about having genuine readers, they're pointless. And if you care about monetization, they're also pointless. You know the meme of two people shaking hands with two opposing viewpoints being united over something? It's like that, where one is people who make webcomics with a genuine desire to share their story and people who make webcomics for money. And the shaking hands is over agreeing that sub for sub is pointless. And that's where the logic for sub falls apart, because sub for sub is not helping, in fact may even be hurting small creators with inactive subscribers, and it doesn't allow you to gain a meaningful, engaged audience. And not only should you want that kind of audience, but you do actually need it, because you're not going to reach the views requirement with inactive subs. And if you don't care about your readership, you don't care how long it takes, you'll do sub for sub until you have 40k views and 1,000 subs so you can monetize your comic, I regret to inform you, you're in the wrong line of work. And I want to be clear, I'm not railing on people for doing sub for sub. Do what you want. I just think people are very misinformed about its usefulness because it's basically not useful. And with all the effort that people put into relentlessly spamming their comic in the wrong places to the wrong people, if they redirected that into focused effort to create promotional content that was actually entertaining and targeted their audience, I'm sure many people would actually have more subscribers, and genuine ones. You can do it. I did it. I will reiterate. No social media presence prior to starting my comic. And you just have to be smart about where you put your efforts. I believe in you guys. I believe your audience is out there. You just need to chart a path towards them. Alright loves, I have said my piece. If you've listened this far, you're a star. I hope that something I've said was insightful. I made this video because people ask me a lot how I grew my readership for my webcomics so quickly, and I've even had some imply that it was lucky that I got onto the front page, or had videos blow up, or whatever. And it was not luck. It is the result of a concerted, borderline obsessive dedication, an insane amount of trial and error, all with the goal of growing a following because I worked really hard on this thing, and I'm not about to let it fall into the endless void of critically underrated webcomics that never see the light of day. Some people are comforted telling themselves that the reason others have been successful while they have not is because they were just lucky. But if anything, knowing that it was not luck should be a comfort to you. At this point, I have not spent a cent to promote any of my posts or my videos, and I haven't talked this entire video about the quality of my story or my art, because I wanted to focus on things that we can all do to improve our odds, regardless of where our art or our story is. That's not to say that privilege doesn't play a role, and that can be my perceived race, attractiveness, my language background, and even my tech literacy. Those are all things that can impact how people respond to my content on social media. But tell me your take on some of these social media platforms and sub for sub culture in the comments, and watch to the end if you want to see a couple of my TikToks and my notes about what made them work well. Quick shout out to my patrons, Sue is Sus, Tharvex, Morning Dew 60, and Soda Khan. As usual, my comic and social are linked in the description. Bye guys! I've been scared to post this draft for weeks because I didn't want it to flop, and I put a lot of pressure on myself to build a following for the story that I'm creating, and I think it's because this story and this world that I created is something that has lived with me for years, and it feels really exciting but vulnerable to share it. At the end of the day, me materializing this story is something that I have to do for myself, but I chose to release it as a webcomic because I want other people to experience all of the adventure and the mystery with me. So, with every video that I post, I can only hope that a few of you decide to tag along for the journey too. Lore dumping, and how to avoid it. Lore dumping is anytime a piece of media opens with some grandiose explanation of the fantasy world that's usually boring, not immersive, and overwhelming. Remember, your readers do not need to be experts in your lore after the first page, and that doesn't mean you can't have a cool prologue explaining your lore. I have a cool prologue, but instead of providing explanations, it introduces mystery and intrigue. One solution is to have an expert character, so my protagonist Somani is an ogmologist, and ogmology is the science I developed around my hard magic system, so when she explains the lore to other characters, it informs the readers and it's a playful opportunity for the other characters to poke fun at her. The opposite of the expert character is the amnesiac hero, and this is a popular trope for a reason. If your character doesn't know who they are, much less the world around them, they make an excellent vessel for lore as they discover their surroundings. My strategy here is to always make my world building exposition character driven, so utilize your character's position in the story and their relationships to others to help flesh out the world. Curious about my story? Check the link in my bio.